I should have known something was off the moment I saw them laugh together. It wasn't just a laugh. It was our laugh. The kind she used to save for me. The way her eyes crinkled, how her hand would brush someone's arm mid-giggle. She did that with him. My best friend. My name's Eric. I'm 38, live in a small town outside of Denver, Colorado. I work construction, own my own little company, not rich, not poor, just steady. I've been married to Lauren for almost 9 years. We met in our late 20s, hit it off fast. She had this fire in her. The kind of girl that made you feel like you were the only man in the room. And God, for a while, I was. And then came Sean. He and I go way back, college roommates, best man at my wedding, godfather to our dog. He helped me move into our first house. We built the deck in my backyard together. We watched football every Sunday like clockwork, beers in hand, ribs on the grill. I trusted him with everything. With my house. With my tools. With her. The first time I noticed something weird, it was small. Innocent even. Lauren was texting more. Always with her phone, smiling to herself. I asked who she was chatting with and she said, just the girls. But when I glanced over her shoulder once, I saw a message from S. It could have been her sister, Susan. Could have been. But something in her tone had changed. Softer, distant. I brushed it off. Then Sean started coming around more often, not just for games or barbecues. He'd show up when I wasn't home. Said he was dropping something off or checking on the dog when I was running late. Lauren said he was just being helpful. But one Friday night I came home early from a job. Supposed to be a late shift, client canceled last minute. I didn't text her. I thought I'd surprise her with takeout. I walked in and the house was too quiet. Then I heard it. A laugh. Hers. And his. From the living room. They weren't touching. They weren't doing anything wrong, technically. But she was curled up on the couch, wine in hand. His shoes were off. They looked too comfortable. Sean stood up fast when he saw me. His face turned pale. Lauren smiled like nothing was wrong. Oh hey babe. Sean just stopped by to return your drill. At 8:30 on a Friday night? Something in my gut twisted. I didn't say anything. I kissed her on the cheek, nodded to Sean, and sat down with my takeout. We ate like everything was normal. But I couldn't taste a damn thing. That night, I laid next to her in bed, listening to her breathe, and for the first time in our marriage. I didn't feel like her husband. I felt like a stranger. Like someone watching a movie where the main character doesn't realize the knife's already in his back. And the worst part? It hadn't even started to bleed yet. The next morning, Lauren acted like nothing happened. She kissed me on the cheek, made her usual almond milk latte, and hummed some pop song under her breath while making toast. I watched her from across the kitchen table and all I could think was, how long has this been going on? Is this still the woman I married, or just someone wearing her skin? I didn't confront her. Not yet. That would have been too easy. I needed to know. I needed to be sure I wasn't just being paranoid or jealous or letting my insecurities play tricks on me. Because the worst thing you can do is accuse someone you love of something awful and be wrong. That's how you ruin good things. That's how you lose people who were never planning to hurt you in the first place. At least, that's what I kept telling myself. But suspicion has a smell. It seeps into your clothes, your pillowcases, your morning coffee. It changes how you look at everything. I started noticing the little things. Her showers got longer. Her phone never left her hand, not even when she went to the bathroom. She started working late even though her job was mostly remote. And Sean? He became a ghost. No texts, no visits, no Sunday games. Just gone. You'd think that would calm me. That with him out of the picture, the doubt would fade. But it didn't. It made it worse. It was too sudden. Too clean. Like they coordinated it. So I did something I never thought I'd do. I went through her phone. It was a Saturday. She was in the shower. I stood outside the door, heart racing, palms sweating, listening to the water run as I unlocked her iPhone with her birthday. She'd never changed the passcode. That almost made me feel guilty. Almost. There weren't any messages from Sean. No texts, no photos, nothing. Not even in the deleted folder. But when I checked her calendar, I found something odd. 2 lunch appointments in the last month marked with just the letter S. One at a bistro we'd never been to. One at a hotel bar across town. And they both fell on the same days I'd had back-to-back jobs out of town. Coincidence? Maybe. But it felt like my stomach dropped into acid. I couldn't breathe. I put the phone back where I found it, slipped out of the room, and sat on the edge of our bed staring at the floor like it was going to explain everything. I wanted to scream. To punch something. But I didn't. I just sat there. And then I made a decision. If they were going to lie to me, then I'd dig until I found the truth. I wasn't going to explode. I wasn't going to accuse. I was going to collect, watch, record, learn, because the moment I had proof, a real proof, was the moment I'd finally get my life back, even if it meant burning it all down to the ground. The next week, I started keeping notes. Nothing obvious, just a small leather notebook I kept in the glove compartment of my truck. Every time Lauren said she was going somewhere, I wrote it down. Every time she got a call and stepped outside to take it, I jotted down the time. I started taking photos of her car's mileage before and after her supposed errands. It felt disgusting, like I was turning into someone I didn't recognize. But I couldn't stop. I had to know. That's the thing about betrayal, it doesn't just hurt. It rewrites you. Turns you from a trusting husband into a detective with a heart full of broken glass. And the worst part is, even if you find what you're looking for, you still lose. Either you're crazy or you're right. There's no happy ending when you get to this point. About 10 days in, I got my first real break. She said she was going to a work event. Some networking mixer at a wine bar downtown. She left around 6:30 in a tight red dress she hadn't worn in years, the one she used to save for anniversaries. I played dumb. Kissed her on the cheek, told her to have fun. Watched her drive away from the living room window. Then I followed her. I stayed a few cars behind, careful not to get too close. My hands were shaking the entire time, but my eyes were glued to her taillights like they were pulling me forward. She didn't go downtown. She didn't even go near her office. She pulled into the parking lot of a hotel. A nice hotel. I parked across the street, my heart pounding so loud I could hear it in my ears. I watched her sit in the car for a minute, checking her phone. Then she got out and walked inside, heels clicking, purse on her shoulder like she was walking into a goddamn dream instead of a nightmare. I waited. 10 minutes later, Sean's truck pulled in. Same truck. Same Colorado license plate. Same dumb little Broncos bumper sticker on the back. He didn't hesitate. Just parked, locked it, and went inside like he owned the place. My breath caught in my throat. That was it. That was the moment everything I'd feared turned into truth. Not suspicion. Not paranoia. Proof. I didn't go in after them. I didn't storm the lobby. I didn't yell or scream or throw punches like some soap opera character. I just sat there, frozen, watching the front doors like a man watching the gates of hell swing open. They were inside, together, doing God knows what. And I, her husband, his best friend, was outside in the dark, gripping my steering wheel so tight my knuckles turned white. I stayed there for 2 hours. They never came out. When I finally drove home, the silence in the truck was louder than any scream. And I knew this wasn't the end. This was only the beginning. That night, I didn't sleep. I lay in bed beside her, listening to her breathe, smelling the faint trace of perfume and cheap hotel soap on her skin. She had showered when she got home, said the wine bar was packed, that she felt sticky from the crowd. She curled up beside me like everything was normal, like she hadn't just come from a room where she let another man touch her. My best friend. I stared at the ceiling and imagined it all. I couldn't help it. My mind ran wild, filling in the blanks I didn't want to see but couldn't unsee. The way she might have smiled at him. The way he probably kissed her neck, the way I used to. Her hands in his hair. His voice whispering things I would have given my soul to hear from her again. It made me sick. And still I said nothing. The next morning I watched her pack a gym bag and say she had yoga with some girls from the office. She kissed me on the forehead and told me not to wait up. Her lie was casual, easy, smooth. Like she'd practiced. Like this wasn't her first time. I didn't follow her that day. I didn't need to. Instead, I went to see Sean. I knew where he'd be. Saturday morning, his garage. Tinkering with his stupid vintage motorcycle, pretending he was still 25. I parked a block away and walked. I needed to see his face before he saw me. I needed to know if he'd flinch. He didn't. He looked up from the bike, grinned wide like nothing had changed, and said, "Eric. Long time, man." That broke something in me. I didn't say a word. I just walked up to him, stared straight into his eyes, and let the silence hang thick between us. He started to speak again, but something in my face must have told him not to. His smile died. His eyes narrowed. "What's going on?" he asked. Not casual anymore. I took a breath so deep it burned. Then I said just 5 words. "I know about the hotel." He didn't deny it. He didn't even blink. He just looked down at the ground, jaw tight, nostrils flaring like he was trying to hold back whatever pathetic excuse he'd rehearsed. But his silence, said more than anything he could have said. "How long?" I asked. He looked me in the eye then, and I saw it. Shame. Guilt. But not regret. "About 4 months," he muttered. 4 months. 4 months of stolen hours, of whispers and text messages and secret rooms while I worked overtime to pay for a life they both used to cheat me. I wanted to hit him. God, I wanted to. But I didn't. I just nodded, turned around, and walked away. I didn't say another word. Because what do you say to someone who's stabbed you in the back and looked you in the eye while doing it? Nothing. The silence is what kills them. And I wasn't done yet. After I left Sean's place, I didn't go home. I drove aimlessly for hours, the city blurring around me like a place I no longer recognized. Every street looked unfamiliar, even the ones I knew by heart. My world had shifted. Tilted. It's a strange thing when betrayal hits, it doesn't just cut you open. It disorients you. Up becomes down. Trust becomes poison. Love becomes a loaded weapon you didn't even know was in your hands. I ended up at this little roadside diner on the outskirts of town, the kind of place with cracked vinyl booths and stale coffee that tastes like burnt soil. I sat in the corner, nursing a bitter cup while the waitress pretended not to notice the look on my face. I must have looked wrecked. Dead behind the eyes. But inside? I was burning. I kept thinking about Lauren. Her smile. Her laugh. The way she used to sneak up behind me and wrap her arms around my waist while I made breakfast. Were any of those moments real? Or had she been slipping away for months, playing pretend while she gave her real self to him? And what did Sean have that I didn't? What did he say to her in that hotel room that made her forget 9 years of marriage? That's when the rage started to twist into something else. Resolve. I wasn't going to scream. I wasn't going to beg. I wasn't going to cry on the kitchen floor and ask her why. No, I was going to take everything she gave me, the lies, the betrayal, the humiliation, and turn it into a blade. A quiet one. Sharp. Precise. No drama. No spectacle. Just consequences. I called a lawyer the next morning. Found her through a buddy of mine who went through a nasty divorce last year. The kind of attorney who doesn't flinch when things get ugly. I told her everything. She listened, took notes, and by the end of the call she said something that hit me like a hammer. If you want to protect yourself, you start now. So I did. I opened a new bank account. Moved half of our savings. Made copies of every financial document I could find, mortgage papers, tax returns, credit card statements. I didn't want revenge. I wanted clarity. I wanted to walk away clean, knowing that I wasn't the fool they thought I was. Every day I played the role. The loving husband. The clueless friend. I kissed her good morning, made her coffee, asked about her day. Meanwhile, I tracked every lie, every absence, every fake yoga session and late-night work call. I even bought a small recording device and hid it in her car. Not because I needed more proof, but because I needed closure. And the more I gathered, the colder I became. I stopped hoping for an apology. I stopped wishing they'd feel guilt. I started preparing for the day I'd burn it all down, not out of spite, but out of self-respect. And that day was coming sooner than they thought. Lauren didn't suspect a thing. If anything, she seemed lighter. Happier. Like a woman who dropped some invisible weight. She smiled more. She touched me more often, fleeting, meaningless brushes of the hand or quick pecks on the cheek. At first, I thought it was guilt. That maybe part of her still cared, still felt the sting of what she was doing. But over time, I realized it wasn't that. She was simply comfortable living the lie. She had no idea I was watching her every move, documenting every step she took into the shadows she thought were hers alone. And Sean? He went back to playing ghost. He vanished completely. No calls. No texts. Not even a like on social media. The coward had burrowed into silence, thinking distance would somehow cleanse him of what he'd done. But silence doesn't erase betrayal. It amplifies it. At night, while Lauren showered or scrolled mindlessly through her phone, I'd lie in bed and go through the evidence I had collected like a prosecutor building a case. Photos. Call logs. GPS data from the tracker I'd hidden under her passenger seat. It was all there: dates, times, locations. The hotel rendezvous, the late-night meetups, the lies lined up like a row of loaded bullets. One night, I sat in the garage with a beer in my hand and stared at the life I had built, tools neatly lined on the pegboard, bikes hanging from hooks, the lawnmower I had fixed with Sean last summer. It was all a shrine to the life I thought I had. The friendships, the marriage, the trust. And it all meant nothing now. I thought about confronting them, bursting into one of their meetings, shattering the illusion with a single line. But that would give them control. That would make me the emotional one, the angry husband who couldn't hold it together. No, I wanted to be ice cold. Calm. Strategic. So I planned my exit like a man plans a heist. I met with my lawyer again and laid everything out. She looked over the documents, the audio files, the timeline. Her brow furrowed deeper with every passing minute. And when I was done, she looked me in the eyes and said, "You have enough to bury them both." Those words didn't bring satisfaction. They brought clarity. I wasn't going to stay in a home that had become a stage for deception. I wasn't going to waste another ounce of energy pretending. But I also wasn't going to walk away like a victim. I was going to leave like a man who knew his worth and take back everything they tried to steal from me. Respect. Dignity. Peace. And the moment was almost here. Just a few more days. The day I chose to end it was a Tuesday. Not dramatic. Not symbolic. Just an ordinary, unremarkable Tuesday. I picked it on purpose. I wanted the ending to come like a car crash in the rain, sudden, cold, and impossible to forget. I didn't want her to see it coming. I wanted her to choke on the quietness of it. She was sitting at the kitchen table, sipping her usual coffee with oat milk and cinnamon, scrolling through emails like it was just another morning. The same table where we had celebrated birthdays, laughed over wine, made plans for vacations we never took. The same table where I now placed a manila envelope. She looked up, eyebrows drawn in confusion. "What's this?" she asked, fingers still clutching her mug. I didn't sit down. I didn't blink. "Proof," I said flatly. She opened it slowly, cautiously, like it might explode. And in a way, it did. Inside were the photographs, the printouts, the timeline. I had even included a few transcriptions from the audio I recorded, just enough to break her, not enough to humiliate her. I wasn't out for vengeance. I was out for truth. For the end. At first, she didn't react. Just stared at the pages, her face blank. Then the color drained from her cheeks. Her hand went to her mouth, and for a second I saw something behind her eyes that almost resembled regret. But only for a second. "This isn't Eric, I can explain." I shook my head. "No, you really can't. And I don't want you to." She stood up then, the panic starting to rise. She reached out for me, but I stepped back. "I already filed," I said. "The lawyer will be in touch. I've moved the money. The house goes on the market next week. I'll be staying at my brother's until then." Her mouth opened, but nothing came out. She looked small. Not broken. Not devastated. Just small. Like the power had finally drained from her. She started crying. Quiet at first. Then louder. But I didn't comfort her. I didn't say a word. Because there's a kind of silence that isn't cruel, it's final. And I had nothing left to give her. No words. No comfort. No mercy. I walked upstairs, grabbed the duffel bag I had packed the night before, and left. No slamming doors. No shouted insults. No parting shot. Just the sound of my boots on the stairs, the front door clicking shut, and the wind greeting me like an old friend as I stepped back into a life I could finally call mine. The first night away from that house was the quietest night of my life. My brother, Jason, gave me his spare bedroom, small, sparsely furnished, just a mattress on a metal frame and a lamp with a crooked shade. But it was clean. It was honest. There were no shadows in that room, no lies sewn into the bedsheets, no perfume-stained guilt clinging to the pillows. I lay there staring at the ceiling, listening to the creaks in the floorboards above and the ticking of a cheap wall clock. For the first time in months, maybe years, I felt something I hadn't expected. Peace. Not relief. Not joy. Just peace. Like standing in the eye of a hurricane with destruction behind you and stillness all around. But that stillness didn't last. The texts started the next morning. From Lauren. Long, rambling apologies. Some angry. Some desperate. Some pitiful. She said it wasn't what I thought. That she was lonely. That she missed who I used to be. That she never meant to fall for Sean. That it just happened. It just happened. Like love is a pothole you trip into. Like betrayal is an accident, not a choice made one lie at a time. I didn't respond. I read them once, then deleted them. She had spoken. And I had heard everything I ever needed to hear. Then came Sean. He didn't text. He called. For times. I let them all go to voicemail. On the fifth try, he left a message. His voice was shaking, part fear, part shame, part the cowardice of a man who knows he can't undo what he's broken. He said he never meant for it to happen. That he missed our friendship. That I was like a brother to him. That he'd ruined everything and didn't know how to live with himself. Good. I hoped he didn't know how to live with himself. Because I sure as hell had to figure out how to live with the wreckage they left behind. I didn't answer him either. The silence was better. Cleaner. I spent the next few days like a ghost, working during the day, staying up late at night, eating when I remembered to, drinking more than I should. I'd walk aimlessly through neighborhoods I didn't recognize, letting the wind cut through me, trying to feel anything. But then, slowly, the numbness began to crack. Not because I missed her. Not because I missed him. But because something inside me, something I thought they had killed, started to breathe again. And for the first time since everything fell apart. I started to think about what comes after the betrayal. Not revenge. Not justice. Just rebuilding. Brick by broken brick. A week after I left, the house officially went on the market. Lauren handled the listing, just like I knew she would. She messaged to tell me the real estate agent would need access to my office to move a few things. I didn't answer. Instead, I drove over one morning while she was at work, picked up what little was still mine, and left the key in the mailbox. I didn't even walk through the rooms. I didn't stand in the living room and let memories wash over me. I didn't say goodbye to the kitchen where we danced barefoot on Saturday mornings or the bedroom where our laughter once lived. It wasn't my house anymore. It had become a museum of everything I had lost and everything she had destroyed. I loaded the last box into the bed of my truck and stood there for a moment, staring up at the place I once called home. It looked smaller somehow, dimmer, as if the life we had built together had been stripped from the walls like old paint. The weight in my chest didn't feel like grief anymore. It felt like release, like exhaling after holding your breath for far too long. Lauren continued texting. Some messages were angry, others pathetic attempts at nostalgia. She mentioned memories I had forgotten. That weekend in the cabin. The surprise birthday party. The way I used to bring her coffee in bed every Sunday. Her words dripped with longing, but I could tell it wasn't me she missed. It was the version of her that only existed when I believed in her. And that version? She'd killed it. Sean never called again. Maybe he finally understood that some bridges don't burn, they disintegrate. That silence isn't punishment. It's closure. I didn't hate him anymore. He wasn't worth hate. Hate takes effort. Hate gives them space in your mind. I didn't want him there. The days started to take shape. I started going to the gym again. I cooked my own meals. I stopped drinking alone. I even got coffee with an old friend I hadn't seen in years, someone who remembered me before I was Lauren's husband. Before I was the guy whose wife slept with his best friend. There's something sobering about losing everything you thought was permanent. It strips you bare. Leaves you standing alone with nothing but your raw self. But in that stripped-down version of life, there's honesty. There's clarity. And in that clarity, I found something unexpected. Freedom. I wasn't broken. I was rebuilding. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like I was walking through ashes. I felt like I was standing on solid ground.